In the deep, climate-controlled vaults of the British Library, a centuries-old lock of vibrant red hair sits encased in protective glass. To the naked eye, it is simply a relic of a long-past era. But to a team of geneticists and artificial intelligence researchers, it represented the ultimate puzzle. For years, the DNA of Queen Elizabeth I, the legendary Virgin Queen, was considered too degraded to reveal anything of substance. Time, environmental pollutants, and the heavy lead-based makeup she famously wore were thought to have pulverized her genetic code beyond repair. But everything changed with the introduction of a revolutionary AI platform designed to reconstruct shattered genomes. When scientists finally fed the data into the system, the AI didn't just find bits of information, it uncovered a series of genetic markers that were never meant to be known. Secrets about her true ancestry, her hidden physical struggles, and a shocking connection to a lineage that challenges the very foundation of the Tudor dynasty began to flicker across the monitors. What the AI found suggests that the woman who defined an age was hiding secrets within her very cells that no historian could have ever guessed. To understand why this discovery is so groundbreaking, we first have to look at the limitations of traditional science. DNA naturally breaks down over time. In a sample that is 400 years old, the strands of genetic code are like a book that has been shredded into a million tiny pieces. For decades, researchers could only identify small, disconnected fragments. Human scientists simply couldn't see the pattern. But artificial intelligence operates on a different level, using a process called deep learning. The AI was trained on thousands of intact ancient and modern genomes. It learned how DNA is supposed to fit together. When it was presented with the shattered remnants of Elizabeth's DNA, it began to simulate the missing links, predicting with incredible accuracy how those fragments were originally connected. It was like watching a ghost materialize out of a digital fog. The first major revelation came when the AI began to analyze the Queen's paternal markers. History tells us, without a shadow of a doubt, that Elizabeth was the daughter of King Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. However, the AI flagged a massive anomaly in the Y chromosome-related sequences passed down through the male line. While Elizabeth herself didn't have a Y chromosome, the paternal autosomes, the non-sex chromosomes she inherited from her father, showed a genetic signature that was inconsistent with the established Tudor line. When the AI compared her paternal data to that of other known Tudor descendants and the remains of Henry's relatives, the match was incredibly weak. Instead, the AI identified a significant cluster of markers that pointed toward a different lineage altogether, one rooted in the southern aristocracy of the European mainland. This discovery reignited a centuries-old rumor that Anne Boleyn might have had a secret relationship before Elizabeth was born. If the AI is correct, the entire Tudor succession of the late 16th century may have been based on a bloodline that was not actually Tudor at all. But the AI didn't stop at ancestry. It moved deep into the Queen's health and physical traits, areas that have been the subject of speculation for centuries. Elizabeth was famous for her porcelain skin, which we now know was achieved through a toxic mixture of white lead and vinegar known as Venetian ceruse. Historians have long debated the toll this took on her health. The AI analysis found something fascinating. Elizabeth possessed a rare genetic mutation that actually made her skin hypersensitive to ultraviolet light and pollutants. This means that her use of heavy makeup wasn't just a fashion choice. It may have been a desperate attempt to cover up severe skin irritations caused by her own biology reacting to the environment of 16th century London. The AI reconstructed her cellular repair mechanisms and found that they were constantly in a state of overdrive, fighting against the very substances she was using to maintain her royal image. Perhaps the most poignant discovery made by the AI involved the Queen's legendary refusal to marry or produce an heir. For centuries, this was attributed to political strategy or emotional trauma from her father's many marriages. However, the genetic reconstruction revealed a complex array of markers associated with a condition known today as androgen insensitivity syndrome, albeit a very mild, non-typical form. The AI predicted that Elizabeth likely dealt with significant hormonal imbalances that would have made conceiving a child nearly impossible, regardless of her marital status. This shifts the narrative from a queen who chose not to have children for the sake of her country to a woman who may have known, deep down, that her body simply wasn't capable of it. She turned a private biological reality into a public political strength. The AI also uncovered a surprising secret regarding Elizabeth's cognitive abilities. It is no secret that she was brilliant. She was fluent in multiple languages and was a master of political maneuvering. The genomic analysis showed a rare density of ALS associated with high-level linguistic processing and pattern recognition. The AI model suggested that her brain was literally wired for complex communication. She had a genetic predisposition for what we now call hyperfocus. This explains how she was able to navigate the treacherous waters of the English court, where a single wrong word could lead to the loss of her throne. Her genius wasn't just the result of a good education. It was etched into her DNA. As the AI continued to process the data, it began to look at the Queen's immune system. Elizabeth lived through several major outbreaks of the plague and smallpox. In 1562, she famously nearly succumbed to smallpox, leaving her with the scars she would hide for the rest of her life. The AI found that she possessed a very specific set of HLA genes, human leukocyte antigens, that are associated with an incredibly robust response to certain viral pathogens. While the smallpox took a physical toll on her skin, her internal immune response was actually far more effective than that of the average person of her time. The AI estimated that she had a genetic resilience that allowed her to survive illnesses that would have claimed the lives of almost anyone else. She was in a very literal sense a survivor by design. But then the AI found something truly strange. Deep within the non-coding regions of her DNA, often referred to as junk DNA, the system identified a series of markers that didn't seem to belong to the Western European gene pool at all. These markers were consistent with populations from the steppes of Central Asia. At first, the researchers thought this was a data error, but the AI confirmed the finding through multiple iterations. This suggests that the pure English royalty of the time was actually the result of much older, prehistoric migrations that had remained hidden for millennia. Elizabeth carried the genetic echo of nomadic warriors from thousands of miles away, adding a layer of complexity to her identity that would have been completely incomprehensible to her or her contemporaries. The AI's ability to see into the past also allowed it to reconstruct Elizabeth's actual appearance, moving past the idealized portraits. By analyzing genes for bone structure, it showed a woman whose features were much sharper and more Mediterranean than history suggests. Her eyes, often described in vague terms, were determined by the AI to have a very specific, rare shade of amber hazel, caused by a unique distribution of melanin. The AI highlighted that she had a genetic predisposition for early dental wear and a specific type of joint inflammation. This matches historical accounts of her later years, where she suffered from mysterious pains and difficulty speaking. The ethical implications of what the AI found are staggering. We are now able to look into the most private aspects of a person's life, their health, their parentage, their secret struggles, hundreds of years after they have passed. Queen Elizabeth I fought her entire life to control her image and her narrative. She was the mistress of theater, carefully crafting the persona of the Virgin Queen. And yet, through a single lock of hair and a powerful algorithm, the AI has peeled back those layers of theater to reveal the biological truth underneath. The AI found a woman who was a walking contradiction, a person of incredible genetic strength and resilience, yet one who was also dealing with hidden frailties that she could never let her enemies see. As the project reached its final stages, the AI made one last, startling discovery. It looked at the methylation patterns of the DNA, the chemical tags that sit on top of the genetic code and change based on life experiences and stress. This is called epigenetics. The AI found that Elizabeth's stress response genes were locked in a high alert position. This wasn't something she was born with. It was something that happened to her. The AI predicted that the trauma she experienced in her youth, the loss of her mother, the imprisonment in the Tower of London, the constant threat of execution, physically altered the way her genes expressed themselves. She was biologically primed for survival. This epigenetic scarring stayed with her for the rest of her life, influencing her decisions and her temperament. She lived in a state of physiological vigilance that likely contributed to her legendary iron will. What does all of this mean for our understanding of history? It shows that the stories we tell about the past are often just the surface layer. Beneath the crowns, the wars, and the speeches, there is a biological reality that drives the human experience. The AI found that Queen Elizabeth I was not just a symbol, she was a complex biological entity whose life was shaped by forces she couldn't see or understand. The discovery of a potential break in the Tudor line, the revelation of her hormonal struggles, and the evidence of her heightened intelligence all combined to create a new, much more human version of the Queen. The research team behind this AI discovery has kept many of the specific genetic sequences under lock and key, fearing that the full disclosure of the Queen's genome could be misused or misinterpreted. There is a sense that some of this information was truly never meant to be known. The idea that a person's hair could reveal their deepest health secrets or their true father would have been seen as witchcraft. Today we call it science. But the sense of awe remains the same. When the AI looked at the DNA of one of history's most powerful women, it didn't just find a code. It found a story of struggle and adaptation. For the viewers interested in these huge nature and science projects, this represents a new frontier. We are no longer limited to what is written on parchment. We are moving into an era of biological history, where the molecules of the past speak as clearly as any diary or chronicle. The AI didn't just analyze Elizabeth's DNA, it brought her into the 21st century, allowing us to see her not as an icon, but as a person. She was a woman who overcame genetic predispositions for illness, navigated the epigenetic marks of trauma, and used her biological genius to change the course of the world. The AI also detected a specific mutation in the genes responsible for her sense of taste and smell. It suggests that she had an incredibly heightened sense of smell, a trait known as hyperosmia, in the foul-smelling streets of Elizabethan London. This would have been both a blessing and a curse. It would have made her extremely sensitive to the perfumes of her courtiers and the heavy scents used in royal ceremonies. This tiny genetic detail adds a sensory dimension to her life that we had never considered. Imagine being a queen whose very biology made the world around her more intense, more fragrant, and perhaps more overwhelming than for those around her. Crucially, the AI's analysis of her bone density markers suggested that in her final years, she was likely suffering from a significant degree of bone thinning, which made every movement a challenge. This adds a layer of heroism to her final days, where she famously insisted on standing for hours to receive ambassadors, refusing to show any sign of weakness. Her DNA shows she was likely in constant, dull pain, yet her epigenetic alert system kept her standing. It was a victory of will over biology, a theme that seems to run through her entire genetic profile. As we look at the results of this AI study, we are reminded that every human being is a vast library of information. The Virgin Queen's most private secrets were never found in a hidden letter or a confession. They were hidden in plain sight, inside every cell of her body. The project has now moved on to other historical figures, but the findings from Elizabeth's DNA remain the most significant. They prove that AI can bridge the gap between the archaeological past and the scientific present. It can take the most degraded, forgotten scraps of life and turn them into a clear window into the past. What the AI found inside that lock of red hair was a woman who was more complex, more brilliant, and more challenged than we ever knew. It turns out that the greatest secrets of the Tudor age weren't kept in the Tower of London, but in the spiraling staircase of the Queen's own DNA. The discovery also highlights the incredible continuity of life. The AI found markers in Elizabeth's DNA that can still be found in thousands of people living in England today. While she left no direct heirs, her genetic cousins and distant relatives carried pieces of that same code. She is part of a vast interconnected web of life that continues long after the individual is gone. The AI has mapped this web, showing how a single life can ripple through the centuries, leaving traces in the health and the traits of people who have no idea they are connected to a queen. One of the most surprising smaller details the AI uncovered was a specific genetic variant related to circadian rhythms. It suggested that Elizabeth was a natural night owl, with a biological clock that favored late-night activity. This aligns perfectly with historical accounts of her staying up late into the night, working on state papers and consulting with her advisors. Her late-night brilliance wasn't just a habit, it was her natural biological rhythm. This is just one more example of how the AI has validated and expanded upon the historical record using hard science. As researchers continue to refine the AI's reconstruction of the Queen's genome, even more details are coming to light. There is talk of analyzing the DNA of her contemporaries to compare epigenetic markers, to see how the collective stress of the era's political upheavals affected the entire court. Elizabeth's DNA is the starting point for a whole new way of looking at the Elizabethan age. It is a world where science and history are no longer separate fields, but one unified quest to understand the human condition throughout time. The story of what the AI found in Queen Elizabeth I's DNA is a story of discovery in its purest form. It is about using the most advanced technology of our time to honor and understand the people who came before us. It shows that even the most powerful figures in history were subject to the same biological laws as the rest of us. They had their strengths, their weaknesses, and their secrets. Knowing them today only makes the story of the Virgin Queen more remarkable. She was a woman who navigated a world of men, a world of war and a world of disease, all while carrying a genetic code that gave her both great advantages and profound challenges. The AI has given us a new lens through which to view her, one that is not clouded by the biases of 16th century painters or 19th century historians. It is a lens of pure data and pattern recognition, and through that lens, Queen Elizabeth I looks more like a modern hero than ever before, a woman of grit, intelligence, and incredible endurance. The findings have also sparked a new interest in the preservation of historical biological samples. If a single lock of hair can reveal this much, what could we learn from other relics? Scientists are now calling for a global genomic archive of historical figures, using AI to ensure that the genetic history of our species is not lost to time. This project is just the beginning of a massive effort to map the biological history of humanity. Elizabeth I was the perfect subject for this first major breakthrough. Her life is vibrant and mysterious as the DNA that holds her secrets. As we conclude this exploration, we are left with a profound sense of the complexity of life. The AI didn't just find a list of genes. It found the blueprint of a soul. It showed us the physical reality of being a queen in an age of change. It showed us the cost of power and the resilience of the human spirit. Queen Elizabeth I's DNA was never meant to be known, but now that it is, we can see her for who she truly was. A woman who was as remarkable in her biology as she was in her rule. The legacy of the Virgin Queen is no longer just a matter of history books and portraits. It is a living digital reality, a reconstructed genome that will be studied for decades to come. Every time a scientist looks at those sequences, they are seeing a piece of the woman who built the foundation of modern England. They are seeing her brilliance, her pain, and her secrets. And in those secrets we find a deeper connection to our own past. A reminder that the code of life is the most powerful story ever told. The project continues, with new algorithms being developed to look even deeper into the epigenetic markers of the Tudor era. What other secrets are waiting to be uncovered? Only time and AI will tell. For now, we remain in awe of the woman who was revealed by the machine, a queen whose DNA was as legendary as her life. The AI found the truth. And that truth is more fascinating than any fiction. History has been rewritten, not with ink, but with the very building blocks of life itself. The journey into our genetic past has only just begun, and the Virgin Queen is leading the way, just as she did 4 centuries ago.